5 years ago, the Eagles let Jim Schwartz walk after Super Bowl win. Today, they're watching him dictate the coaching landscape of an entirely different franchise, and there's no getting him back. Schwartz didn't just rebuild the Browns' defense. He redefined its identity. Now, with 9 teams hunting for head coaches and Schwartz commanding interest from Baltimore, his former team can only watch as he shapes the league from the shadows. For Philadelphia, it's a pain. If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed. Painful reminder of what they let go. And for Cleveland, it's a dangerous game of brinkmanship. The Browns don't just want Schwartz to stay. They need him. His defense isn't just dominant. It's the safety net for Shedeur Sanders, who's being groomed to lead the offense long-term. A departure would create a vacuum of stability, accelerating Sanders' development timeline before he's ready. Schwartz's decision isn't about a promotion. It's about controlling the very foundation of a franchise. The NFL coaching world is already chaotic, but this offseason, it's veering into uncharted territory, and the epicenter is Jim Schwartz. Yes, that Jim Schwartz, the former Eagles defensive coordinator who helped secure their only Super Bowl title back in 2018. The man who once walked away from Philadelphia with barely a second thought from ownership is now one of the most consequential figures in football and not even in a head coaching role. You've got 9 NFL teams on a hunt for new head coaches. We're talking major franchises, high-stakes vacancies, and a feeding frenzy for offensive masterminds. And yet, one defensive coordinator, not even interviewing for most of these jobs, is a key figure influencing who gets hired and where. It all centers on the Cleveland Browns. Because while most teams are pitching clean slates and total autonomy, the Browns are doing something no one else is even trying. They're telling head coaching candidates up front that Jim Schwartz isn't going anywhere. That's the offer. Come coach the Browns, but you're not touching the defense. And that's not just a minor request. It's a deal-breaking condition. Candidates have to agree to retain Schwartz as defensive coordinator before they're seriously considered. This isn't a handshake agreement. It's a line in the sand. Schwartz is more than a coordinator to Cleveland. He's the franchise's most valuable asset, and he's now the de facto gatekeeper of who gets the job. This is not normal. NFL coordinators don't typically get veto power. They don't shape front office decisions. But Jim Schwartz has flipped the dynamic on its head. The Browns aren't just asking potential coaches to work with him. They're making it clear that Schwartz is essential. You either build around him or you don't get in the door. Why? Because his defense delivered when nothing else in Cleveland did. The Browns finished the season with a 4th-ranked defense in the league. That's top-tier production from a unit that had been wildly inconsistent in years past. And while the offense struggled, while the quarterback situation was in flux, while injuries piled up, Schwartz's defense kept them alive. He earned that respect. And in a franchise like Cleveland, which has cycled through coaches and quarterbacks like broken light bulbs, consistency matters more than ever. They're not just protecting Schwartz. They're betting their future on him, especially when it comes to Shedeur Sanders. Yes, Shedeur is a 5th-round pick, but inside the organization, he's seen as a potential franchise cornerstone. The Browns believe they found something other teams overlooked, but they also understand the risk. Young quarterbacks don't survive dysfunction. They don't thrive under pressure. And they definitely don't develop when the defense collapses every other week. That's where Schwartz comes in. His defense gives Shedeur breathing room, margin for error, a safety net that most rookie quarterbacks don't get. With Schwartz running the defense, Shedeur won't be asked to throw for 300 yards just to stay competitive. He won't have to rescue a broken system. He can actually develop the right way, make mistakes, learn from them, and grow without the spotlight crushing him. Take away Schwartz, that entire support structure collapses. And to make things even more complicated, Schwartz is not locked into Cleveland. He's already interviewed with the Baltimore Ravens, his hometown team. And they're not just looking at him for another coordinator role. They're eyeing him as a head coach. That interview changes everything, because now Schwartz has options. Real ones. Stay in Cleveland and keep building a top-tier defense, or take over a playoff-ready roster in Baltimore, get the title he's earned, and return home to lead one of the league's most stable organizations. If Baltimore offers him the job, it's a career-defining decision. For Cleveland, it's a crisis. They've structured their entire head coaching search around Schwartz. They've told candidates, he's staying, period. If Schwartz walks, that entire strategy goes up in flames. The list of potential hires shrinks instantly. Every coach who passed on the Browns because of Schwartz's presence, gone. And now Cleveland isn't just replacing a head coach. They're replacing a coordinator, a culture leader, and the one guy holding the defense together. That's not just a personnel issue. That's a full-blown identity loss. And let's not forget, this isn't just about Cleveland's short-term strategy. This is about Shedeur Sanders. His development hinges on this. He's not a first-round golden boy who can coast on draft status. He's a fifth-round pick trying to prove he belongs. He needs protection on and off the field. He needs stability. And right now, Schwartz is that stability. If Schwartz stays, the Browns have a real shot at building something around Shedeur. They can hire an offensive-minded coach who knows how to develop a young quarterback and let Schwartz handle the rest. That formula can work if they find the right fit. But that's the problem. That fit is extremely rare. Most offensive coaches with the talent and experience to groom a franchise QB want full control. They want to install their own staff. They don't want to inherit a defense, no matter how good it is. And certainly not one where the coordinator holds more power than they do. That's why Cleveland's search has stalled. Because the best candidates aren't interested in walking into someone else's shadow. They want to build their own program, not fit into someone else's. So here's the paradox. Schwartz has been so successful, so respected, and so essential to Brown's recent progress that he's now unintentionally made it harder for the team to move forward. His influence is both their greatest asset and their biggest obstacle. And through all this, the Eagles are watching. They let Schwartz go after their Super Bowl run. They thought they could replace him, and on paper, maybe they could. But on the field, in the locker room, it's never been the same. Post-Schwartz, the Eagles' defense has struggled with consistency. They've lacked identity. And now they're seeing him reshape an entire franchise in the defensive coordinator position, while their own system looks less and less stable. It's a brutal reminder of what they lost. And for Schwartz, it's a vindication. He's no longer just a great coordinator. He's now the most important figure in Cleveland's future and a top candidate for one of the most coveted head coaching jobs in the league. The Browns know it. The Ravens know it. The Eagles know it. And every day that Schwartz waits, the pressure builds. Will he stay in Cleveland, continue shaping a defense, and quietly mold the foundation of a quarterback's career? Or will he take the leap, go home to Baltimore, and finally become a head coach, trading long-term legacy for media control? Either way, the consequences are massive. If he stays, the Browns might pull off something rare: stability, development, contention. If he leaves, they're back in the blender, scrambling for coaches, rethinking everything, and risking Shedeur's potential before it even gets off the ground. This is what it looks like when one man becomes a pivot point for two franchises. So what do you think? Should Schwartz run it back in Cleveland and help build something lasting around Shedeur? Or should he return to Baltimore and take the top job he's more than earned? Let us know in the comments. Like the video if you're tracking this off-season drama. And hit that subscribe button. We got plenty more chaos to cover. And trust, this story is far from over. So, let's get into the deeper layer here. Because the NFL doesn't just hand out this kind of leverage to coordinators. You don't see franchises bowing to someone unless the alternative is a total implosion. But that's what the Browns are staring at. They've created a structure where Jim Schwartz isn't just an employee. He's a condition. You want a head coaching job? You're inheriting Schwartz. You don't get to interview your own DC. You don't get to pitch a new staff or bring in your own culture on defense. That side of the ball is off limits. It already belongs to someone else. And that someone else? He doesn't answer to you. You answer to him, at least in practice, if not on paper. And no matter how you dress it up, that is an incredibly tough sell to top-tier coaching candidates. This is where Cleveland's plan runs into a wall. Because there's a limited number of guys out there who are both qualified to develop Shedeur Sanders and humble enough to coexist with a defensive coordinator who has final say. Most head coaches aren't interested in playing co-manager. They want control. They want buy-in. And they want the freedom to shape the team their way. So what the Browns are offering is niche. It's appealing only to a very small group of people. And even then, not all of them are available, interested, or ready. Meanwhile, the clock is ticking. Other teams are filling their vacancies. And if Schwartz hasn't given a clear answer, if he's still weighing Baltimore, then the Browns are stuck in neutral. They can't pull the trigger on a coaching hire without knowing whether the most important piece of their defense is still going to be in the building. And let's be honest, he's not just the most important piece of the defense. He is the defense. The scheme, the intensity, the identity, it all flows from him. If he leaves, you're not just losing a play caller. You're losing a system that's carried your team through injuries, quarterback rotations, and offensive inconsistency. It's no wonder the front office is holding their breath. If Schwartz decides to stay, the Browns can continue building around what actually worked last season. If he leaves, they're rebuilding again, and doing it without the guy who's been the glue holding everything together. And again, this all circles back to Shedeur Sanders. The Browns didn't draft him for depth. They didn't stash him as a long-term backup. They believe in him. They see potential. But belief isn't enough. Quarterbacks don't grow in chaos. They don't thrive with revolving coaches, constant pressure, and no margin for error. Schwartz's defense is what gives Cleveland that margin. It gives Shedeur the space to learn without being the savior. It gives the team the ability to win games 20-17 instead of 35-31. That's huge when you're grooming a young QB. You don't want him feeling like every drive has to end in a touchdown. You want him confident, patient, methodical. Take that defense away, and suddenly Sanders is under fire from week one. And if the losses start piling up, so do the questions. Did they reach? Was he overhyped? Should they have drafted someone else? That's how development windows get crushed before they even open. So now, the Browns are faced with a brutal dilemma. Gamble on Schwartz staying and risk losing coaching candidates in the process, or pivot to a new model and risk losing Schwartz. And it's not just Cleveland watching this play out. The Baltimore Ravens are sitting in the perfect position. If they land Schwartz, they get an elite defensive mind with head coaching experience. They get someone who can lead a locker room, command instant respect, and bring a proven track record into a system that's already built for playoff football. Plus, let's not downplay the personal angle here. Baltimore is home. Schwartz is from there. Coaching your hometown team doesn't come around often. Combine that with a chance to finally be the guy in charge, and not just a brilliant supporting act. And the offer writes itself. If he accepts it, it's not just a big move. It's a shift. The Browns lose their coordinator, their identity, their hiring plan, their safety net for Shedeur, all in one swing. The Ravens gain a proven winner, a culture setter, a leader who's already shown he can take underperforming defenses and elevate them into elite units. It's a double blow. One team's loss becomes a rival's gain. And in the AFC North, one of the most cutthroat divisions in football, that matters. Meanwhile, over in Philly, silence. But it's the kind of silence that screams regret. They let Schwartz walk after the Super Bowl. Didn't offer more. Didn't fight to keep him. And what's happened since? Their defense has been fine. Sometimes, but never dominant, never consistent, never foundational. Schwartz wasn't flashy. He didn't give great sound bites. But he won. He organized chaos. He simplified roles. He got guys to execute. And now that he's gone, it's clear that kind of stability doesn't grow on trees. So now Philly's watching from the outside as a coordinator they let walk now holds 2 franchises in the palm of his hand. And what's wild, he didn't ask for any of this. Schwartz didn't lobby for this kind of influence. He earned it through results, through leadership, through consistency. Cleveland just happened to realize it before the rest of the league caught up. But now that the rest of the league is caught up, now that teams like Baltimore are calling, it's open season. And the Browns have to deal with the fact that they no longer control their own offseason. Schwartz does. So where do we go from here? If Schwartz chooses Cleveland, he remains the most powerful non-head coach in the league. He becomes a builder, someone who shapes not just a defense, but an entire franchise. He gets to be the steward of a rookie quarterback's career. And maybe, help the Browns finally shed the label of being perennially cursed. If he picks Baltimore, he gets the title, the control, the spotlight, and a chance to win now. Not 5 years from now. Now, with a quarterback in Lamar Jackson, who's already proven he can carry a team deep into the playoffs. With a defense that's already talented. With an organization that knows how to win. There's no wrong answer for Schwartz. But for the Browns, there's only one they can live with. They need him to stay. Period. Because if he goes, they don't just lose a coordinator. They lose their defensive identity, their hiring leverage, their developmental strategy for Shedeur Sanders. And they become once again a franchise starting over. Again, at this point, Jim Schwartz isn't just one of the most valuable coordinators of the league. He's the most powerful man in the Cleveland Browns organization. And the irony, he doesn't even have a head coach title. Yet the decisions being made, or more accurately, the decisions being delayed, are all orbiting around him. Let's not sugarcoat this. Schwartz has frozen the Browns' entire offseason strategy. While other teams are charging ahead, making hires, locking down staffs, outlining schemes, the Browns are waiting for a man they place so much faith in that they're practically offering job security most head coaches don't get. They've told candidates they want Schwartz retained. That's not just an internal hope. It's been communicated during interviews. They're building the coaching pitch around his presence. But what happens if he leaves? It's the question no one in Cleveland wants to answer out loud, but it's the only one that matters. Because right now, the Browns have no backup plan. They've publicly staked their stability on Schwartz staying. They've made him a foundational pillar of their defense, the stability for Shedeur Sanders' development, and a non-negotiable part of their hiring package. That's a lot of responsibility for someone who might be on his way to a head coaching gig elsewhere, specifically with the Baltimore Ravens, who have already interviewed him. That's not hypothetical. That's not rumor. That's fact. And here's where it gets even more uncomfortable for Cleveland. If Schwartz does choose Baltimore, he walks into one of the most well-run franchises in the league, a team with playoff pedigree, a team with a top-tier quarterback in Lamar Jackson, a defense that's already stacked, a front office that knows how to draft, how to manage talent, how to win. And Schwartz gets to be the head coach, officially, not the silent operator behind the curtain, not the coordinator pulling strings from the shadows, the man in charge. How do you say no to that? Well, if you're Cleveland, you're hoping he says no because of what he's already built. You're banking on loyalty, on long-term vision, on Schwartz being more interested in legacy than in a title, because that's the only card the Browns can play right now. They've already told the league, he's our guy. He's staying. He's part of the plan. So if he walks, you don't just lose your defensive identity. You lose credibility. You lose the foundation you swore to protect. And you throw a rookie quarterback, Shedeur Sanders, into a situation that goes from promising precarious overnight. Let's stop and focus on Shedeur for a second. The Browns see something in him. He may have been taken in the 5th round, but make no mistake. Internally, they view him as a future starter, maybe the starter. But even the best prospects can unravel fast in the wrong environment. A quarterback's early years are everything. You surround them with the right staff. You keep the pressure reasonable, and they can grow into the role. You throw them into a mess, and it can derail their entire arc. And this has the makings of a mess. If Schwartz leaves, Shedeur's development plan goes up in smoke. The Browns will be forced to hire a new head coach and a new defensive coordinator, almost certainly someone outside of the candidate pool they were targeting. Because let's be real, if your job interview is built around working with Schwartz and then he's gone, what exactly are you hiring for? This isn't just a setback. It's a full reset. And the damage control? That's not easy to spin, especially not in Cleveland. This is a franchise with a long history of turnover, failed rebuilds, and talent wasted in chaos. They were finally looking like a team that had a path forward. Even with offensive inconsistency, the defense gave them legitimacy, gave them a chance, gave them a reason to believe that maybe this time they could build something sustainable. That's the weight Schwartz carries right now. His decision doesn't just affect rosters and playbooks. It affects hope in a market that's been desperate for it, in a franchise that's been mocked, doubted, and dismissed for decades. And on the other side of it, Baltimore, ready, patient, stable, waiting. Schwartz already has the respect, the resume, the leadership, and now, for the first time in years, the opportunity to finally step into the head coaching spotlight on his own terms, with no strings, no compromise, total control. That's not a small thing. That's the thing. He's been a defensive force for years, helping teams win while others get the credit. Now, the offer on the table is full autonomy, at home, with a playoff roster and the kind of infrastructure most coaches would kill for. So what happens when the Browns, desperate to hold on to their defensive architect, can't match what Baltimore's offering? More importantly, what happens after, let's say, Schwartz leaves? The Browns are now forced to find someone who not only develops Shedeur, but also rebuilds a defense and earns the trust of the locker room that was all in on Schwartz's leadership. That's a massive ask. And with other teams wrapping up their coaching searches, the candidate pool gets thinner by the day. That's why this entire offseason is now waiting on one man, one decision. Stay. And Cleveland holds on to the one thing keeping them from another reset. Leave. And the Browns are thrown back into the instability they were trying so hard to escape. And what's worse, they did it to themselves. By putting all their eggs in the Schwartz basket, by building the entire coaching search around him, by communicating to the football world that he's untouchable, they gave him more power than some head coaches even have. And to be clear, he didn't misuse that power. He didn't ask for it. He just earned it through results, through leadership, through respect. The Browns responded by giving him everything but the title. But now someone else is offering the title, the control, and the chance to lead outright. So now the whole league waits. Will Schwartz stay in Cleveland and help nurture a young quarterback, anchor an elite defense, and continue shaping the only consistently functional side of ball the Browns have had in years? Or will he take his talents to Baltimore, step into the head coaching role, and turn a strong franchise into a Super Bowl contender? Either way, this is one of the most impactful decisions of the offseason. It's rare to see a non-head coach wield this kind of influence. It's even rarer to see a franchise structure their entire future around someone they technically don't even have under contract beyond this season. But here we are. Jim Schwartz has turned the Browns' future, and maybe the AFC North, on its head. So what do you think? Should he stay loyal to Cleveland and keep building quietly? Or take the leap and finally get the head coaching title he deserves? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you're watching the circus unfold like the rest of us, and subscribe for more breakdowns, drama, and unfiltered analysis. Because if this is how the offseason starts, buckle up, it's only getting wilder from here.